The Elgin National Watch Company factory was once the largest site dedicated to watchmaking in the world. At their peak, they employed over 4,500 people, more than half of which were women. So, what happened to the Elgin Watch Company? Why aren't they as prevalent today as they were back then? Well, stick with me through this intro and I'll tell you the history of this watch industry giant and how they were taken down by war. The Elgin Watch Company, founded in 1864, was originally known as the National Watch Company. The idea for the company was simple enough. If Massachusetts could build a factory that built watches, Illinois could too. And so it began. A lofty $100,000 in capital was raised and the company was founded by 7 men. Illinois' first pharmacist and an outspoken abolitionist, Philo Carpenter, a bookbinding and stationery business owner, Howard Zorster Culver, an American politician who twice served as mayor of Chicago, Benjamin W. Raymond, an American pioneering explorer and cartographer, George M. Wheeler, an investor, Thomas S. Dickerson, an American physician and railroad executive, Edward H. Williams, and a lawyer and judge, Salas W. Robbins. The businessmen informed Elgin, their preferred location, that in order to do business there, they required a donation of 35 acres of land and $25,000 from the townspeople. The requested location was on an abandoned farm because of the American Civil War, which was not for sale unless the entire farm was purchased, the owner stated. 4 local Elgin businessmen stepped up and purchased 71 acres of farmland from the owners for $3,550 and donated the 35 acres needed for the National Watch Company to start the factory in their town. The company was then reorganized on April 25, 1865, with additional capital of $500,000, which was used to build their watch factory. The project, which took about 1 year, included lathes and machines to achieve seemingly impossible levels of precision. The idea for success was to mass-produce high-quality pocket watches using machine-made, interchangeable parts. By today's standards, this seems like an obvious approach. However, up until about 1850, all watches were made by hand. The company recognized and saw a need for good, quality, reliable watches that could be sold and repaired relatively inexpensively using factory-made replacement parts. Repaired relatively inexpensive was the key. Before this, if a watch was damaged, replacement parts would need to be manufactured by hand to fix the problem. The goal wasn't to produce the best watches or the cheapest, but rather to dominate the substantial middle ground of the watch market, which they did for a number of decades. The first movement Elgin produced was an 18-size B.W. Raymond model named for Mayor Benjamin W. Raymond and the company's then president, which sold in April of 1867 for the price of $115. They then introduced the H.Z. Culver, a 15-jewel adjusted high-grade, full-plate movement, much like the B.W. Raymond. By the end of the year, they introduced the H.H. Taylor grade, which was advertised for use by railroadmen. Elgin defined the American pocket watch as an unsurpassed in railroad accuracy and precision. This kicked off a century of success as the company flourished and prospered over the next 100 years. In 1869, the National Watch Company won Best Watches, Illinois Manufacturer at the 17th Annual Illinois State Fair. During the 1870s, the company developed an affordable line of pocket watches for everyday working men. The 18-size and 16-size watch models were redesigned as smaller-size watches for general use. The prices were reduced, resulting in an increase in demand. With their watches being affordable, the factory was now turning out 25,000 watches each year. In 1873, the first stem-wind B.W. Raymond movement was placed on the market. The product line included at least 14 different grades and production was estimated at 100,000 movements per year. Elgin became best known for producing the working man's mid-grade watches. Throughout this decade, the prices were reduced, resulting in an increase in demand, yet they still produced high-grade watches too. Elgin produced each of their watches with different grades to identify their level of quality. Elgin assigned a grade number to a movement of a specific size, jeweling, and finish. If a change was made, a different grade number would be assigned. The name National Watch Company did not stick as the general public knew them as the Watches from Elgin, so in 1874 they changed their name to Elgin National Watch Company, which remained. The company sold and marketed watches under the names Elgin, Lord Elgin, and Lady Elgin. Elgin watches were the company's standard range of watches. Lord Elgin were the luxury range for gentlemen. Lady Elgin were the luxury ranges for ladies. In 1910, Elgin engineers built their own two-story observatory, 2 blocks from the factory on the corner of Watch and Raymond Streets, to provide data on time that was scientifically accurate to a tenth of a second and help produce a more accurate watch. The observatory was an important part of the company's legacy and in 1994 was added to the National Register of Historic Places. The company produced many of the self-winding wristwatch movements made in the United States. During World War I, the Elgin factory trained 350 men of the United States Army how to make precision repairs required in the battlefields, as synchronized watches were key during the war within the trenches. By the end of the 1920s, the America watch production had dropped from 1.8 million movements in 1923 to 1.75 million 5 years later. Imports, mainly from Switzerland, rose during the same period from 2 million to 4.3 million. Of the 35 manufacturers which had once been in production in the US, only 5 were left, including Elgin. Between the World Wars, Elgin made numerous beautiful watches, including stunning Art Deco pieces incorporating a range of luxurious components, including white gold cases and jeweled faces. A trade agreement between Switzerland and the United States went into effect on February 15, 1936. Duties on Swiss watches imported to the US were cut an average of 34% below the previous 1930 rates. In exchange, the Swiss in turn lowered their tariffs on American goods. Prior to this agreement, the American watch industry had 53% of the American public jeweled watch market. Aided by government subsidiaries, the Swiss led in technical innovations and the American companies began to lose market share. From the beginning, the company maintained its general offices in Chicago, Illinois. However, these were all eventually transferred to the main plant in Elgin by 1940. During World War II, the US watch industry was halted and ordered by the government to stop all watch production, and Elgin immediately moved into the defense industry, manufacturing military watches, chronometers, fuses for artillery shells, altimeters, and other aircraft instruments, and sapphire bearings used for aiming cannons. In March of 1944, the American watch companies petitioned the government for relief from the avalanche of Swiss imports. Switzerland, officially neutral during World War II and have not taken part in a war since 1505, the longest-standing neutral nation in the world, was not ordered to halt production and continued as normal. During the US halt, the Swiss captured a whopping 95% control of the US watch market and had a complete monopoly of the machinery needed to make watches. During the war, the US watch industry had worn out its equipment from war production and now needed to replace it, but the Swiss factories would only lease them new equipment. American watch companies argued, by renting the equipment, the Swiss will then be able to exert control over foreign watch industries. The US government, in return, did not put such conditions on the sale of American machine tools that the Swiss needed to make their watch machinery when needed. Walter Cenarazzo, president of the American Watch Workers Union at the time, pleaded with a congressional committee in Washington, D.C. in May of 1942 for a higher tariff on Swiss watch imports, stating the United States government says to the American watch workers, "You cannot produce for civilian use as we need your output for American defense." We agree the United States government is correct in doing so, but on the other hand, the Swiss watch industry is given free rein to ship into the United States an unlimited amount of watches at total landing costs which are less than our cost of production. After the war, Elgin, being heavily affected, laid off 300 workers and went to a 4-day week schedule. Elgin plant number 3 in Aurora, Illinois, containing 30,370 square feet, closed in 1950. From 1950 through 1964, again manufacturing watches, Elgin produced 4 automatic wristwatch movements, grade 607, 618, 7060, and 761. In 1958, they introduced DuraBalance, which was a technologically advanced balance wheel incorporating several features. Sadly though, this would not be enough to save the company from extinction. Going forward, parts of the company ceased to function. The observatory was abandoned in 1955 and turned over to School District U46 in 1960. The watchword, which chronicled personal stories, photos, company history, engineering successes, and local businesses for employees, stopped publication in 1956. In 1958, their Lincoln, Nebraska plant, a 440,000 square foot progressive assembly line plant, which then employed 850 workers, was shut down and sold to the University of Nebraska, while its operations were consolidated to Elgin, Illinois. In an attempt to cut costs, an assembly plant was opened in Blaney, South Carolina in 1963. Residents of Blaney were so eager to land at the Elgin factory that they voted to change its name to Elgin in a landslide 61-16 vote. The main plant in Illinois supplied the southern operation with parts. The original factory, plant number 1, containing 454,800 square feet in Elgin, closed in 1964 after having produced half of the total number of pocket watches manufactured in the United States, excluding dollar pocket watches. The factory clock tower had been put out of commission in late August 1965 and on October 2, 1966 demolished. In 1967, the Elgin, South Carolina plant was sold to B.F. Goodrich, and in 1968, the rights to the name Elgin were sold and have been resold many times since then. Elgin branded watches produced after 1968 have no connection with the National Elgin Watch Company. Plant number 2, containing 64,930 square feet, also in Elgin, Illinois, was sold in 1972. During their production run of over 100 years, Elgin produced nearly 60 million watches, peaking at over 1 million watches per year, which is nearly half of all jeweled watches being produced by American watch companies at that time. They and their story are an American historic treasure. I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, make sure to give it a like, and if you'd like to see more content from us, you can subscribe right here. And as always, if you need any help repairing your watch, the link to our website is right here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.